On this episode of Locked On Lightning, we're recapping tonight's big win at home against the Dallas Stars. Vasilevskiy shutout. Kuch stays hot on what was Victor Hedman's big night, 1,000 career games. We break it all down, coming at you on Locked On Lightning.
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome to another episode of Locked On Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Adam Danker. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. And just as a reminder, today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. On this episode of Locked On Lightning, we are coming to you not too long after tonight's win at home, a 4-0 win against the Dallas Stars in what was the second leg of a back-to-back stretch against the Dallas Stars. And as we all know, the ridiculousness that transpired this past weekend in Dallas, in which the Lightning just got completely outplayed. They didn't show up. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. But it was ugly. It was a disgrace. And as we all kind of figured heading into tonight, not only because of the special occasion, but because of what transpired this past weekend, the Lightning really need to show up and just, I think it got to a point where losing was not an option in this one, and it definitely wasn't. And the Lightning, surprisingly though, you would kind of figure after a loss like that and then playing that team right away that a team would kind of tighten up, play very just close to the chest, don't take a lot of chances. And I'm not saying the Lightning took a lot of chances tonight, but what they did was they just let the game come to them. And you saw it tonight, 4-0. They did a very good job just playing a 200-foot game. I know that sounds cliche, but that's exactly what happened. They played a 200-foot game, and really the source of all the success tonight was really Andrei Vasilevskiy picking up his first shutout of the year, his first shutout in which it seems like has been an eternity since he got a shutout in the regular season, picking up his sixth career shutout against the Dallas Stars. And he faced 25 shots tonight. And the key was for Vasilevskiy, and you might not really, you may not agree necessarily with this take, and that's fine. But I feel like it's very important early on when Vasilevskiy plays, especially now when he hasn't really played a whole ton this year. Obviously, he was out the first couple months of the season. And as we all know, if you've been a follower of this team for quite some time, at least the last couple of seasons, you know that Andrei Vasilevskiy, really what his Achilles heel is, that he, when he doesn't face a lot of shots, he kind of, I wouldn't, I want to say falls asleep back there. I wouldn't really say that, but he just kind of just seems unsure of himself. And that might sound a little strange considering just how very talented he is as a goaltender. But when, and then I think this is also kind of a whole, I think this is, you could say the same thing about a lot of goalies in the league, that, the more shots they face early on, the better they get. And I think that's very, very, very relevant when it comes to Vazzy, because he faced 10 shots early on. He faced 10 shots in the second period. And then third period, he was kind of pretty much relaxing back there. I mean, a lot of it had to do with, just the flow of the game, not a lot of shots in the third period to end things, but in a very low shot count, very much, for both sides tonight. And that's kind of like how the game went. But I like that, seeing him take those attempts early on, 10 shots in the first, 10 in the second, and then 5 to end it. I thought that they were very high quality for the most part. Stars were challenging him, but he looked, especially in the second period, because I think that was going to be the big thing, not only for him, but for Tampa Bay in general, was that really we know whether they're playing well or not in the first period. The very important thing is with this team always is how are they going to be able to come back in the second period? Because I feel like for the most part, what we see out of this team, and this even goes and play this goes hand in hand with Vazzy as well. What we see out of Vasilevskiy in this team is kind of really going to set the stage in the second period. What is really going to set the stage for the rest of the game. And I thought Vazzy looked as good as he's looked in some time. I mean, I can't really, you would have to go really far back, I think, probably since February of last year when the Lightning played, I think, one of their best months out of the year. I think that was a month when they only lost like 3 games. It was crazy. And they somehow found themselves at the top of the division at the end of that month. But that's besides the point. I thought that when we look, and we've kind of spoken about this with Vasilevskiy here and there, but we're always when we have the conversation about him is, trying to get back to 2019, his Vezina Trophy winning year. And then even looking at how he played in 2020, which I thought he played very well as well. I think he won like 14 straight starts, something like that along those lines that year as well. And I thought that, we have seen flashes of that since then, but really I think that in this game is probably the closest we've gotten to kind of seeing that dominance, and a lot of it also has to do with not being able to see it. Was of course the amount of miles that he had on him, and as much as Tampa wants to say, well, this injury that Vasilevskiy suffered uh in preseason or in, I guess, the offseason working out or whatever, I'm not convinced that was the case. I'm convinced that he was playing with this since last year, because with that amount of talent and us seeing flashes like that and having that level of inconsistency, that tells me that he was dealing with something, and just they don't want to use that or make it look like they're using that as an excuse for how maybe he played and how this team played last year. But that is what it is. But tonight was a phenomenal performance for him. I thought the thing that really stuck out to me, especially in the later minutes of this game, the second and third periods, I thought that what his ability to get over, his positioning from side to side, from post to post, I thought was just it looked like his level of reading the play was just it seemed like he was 3 steps ahead of the Stars of anything they wanted to do. Um and I, we didn't really see that last year. It kind of seemed as though that he was still guessing, and when you're a goaltender and when you're not sure and you're not playing with that level of confidence, like I thought he didn't have last year, and you see that tonight. I thought that was a huge plus for this team, because like we've said in games past, years past, is that ultimately when Vasilevskiy plays well, this team feeds off of that. And you saw that tonight. He was confident. He was on cloud 9. And this team went out there and kind of, just like I said, they let the game come to them. But at the same time, they were taking their chances. I mean, I think the cherry on top, when you really talk about the confidence of this team tonight, was the Cirelli goal at the end. That backhander off that turnover down low in the slot and just casually throwing it past Ottinger down low with a couple of defenders around him was just the cherry on top. And it really, if you follow the breadcrumbs to where this all started with this team tonight, it was 88 in net. So, kudos to him. First shutout of the season, 6th shutout of his career, like I said, against Dallas. And really, it was just one of those nights for Andrei Vasilevskiy where he seemed like he couldn't do no wrong. So let me know in the comments below what you think about tonight's win? Because I'm seeing this on Twitter. I'm very curious how everybody else feels. I'm not convinced yet. I need to kind of see a little bit more out of Vasilevskiy to kind of be on this bandwagon. But now the question, if it's not only a question, I guess it's more so a statement on Lightning Twitter. Vasilevskiy's back. I mean, this was a very good start to him being officially back, but I think that this was a great step in the right direction for Andrei Vasilevskiy, getting back to what we all know he can be for the Tampa Bay Lightning. So let me know in the comments below of this video on our YouTube channel. And in just a few moments, we'll be talking about one of the stars of tonight's game, and that is our friend Nikita Kucherov. So make sure to stick around for that. But before we get to that, I just want to talk about one of our sponsors today, and that's our friends over at Sleeper. Now, a new NHL season brings all sorts of possibilities. Nikita Kucherov could score 50 goals, and I'm not even joking. I think he can at this pace. He could definitely score 50 goals. The Lightning could hoist the Stanley Cup. We kind of have a little ways to go with that, and you could win by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our #1 choice for daily fantasy sports, and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. Which would you like to play this week? I mean, Nikita Kucherov, if you're asking yourself that question, Nikita Kucherov is easy money. And with him, you could easily, possibly, I'm not going to say easily, but you have a very high chance at the rate he is scoring that you could win 100 times your money. So all you have to do is pick whether Cooch, Point, and I'm going to say Tony C, because I think he's about to get hot, will record more or less than their sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more in a given. So use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. So as always, I want to thank you all for tuning in to Locked On Lightning, and thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Go ahead and subscribe to our podcast. Give us a follow wherever podcasts are distributed in audio form. We are also available on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Drop a comment below this video, as well as hit that thumbs up button. So we're here talking about not too long after the Lightning closed out their 4-0 win at home to the Dallas Stars. Off a phenomenal night, really, all around. I thought everybody was playing very loose, very free. There was a couple of instances where I did think this team kind of played a little too loose with the puck possession, turning it over in their zone, but at the same time, I thought that really the thing that stuck out to me with this team, and we'll talk more about it at the end of the show, but I thought the thing that really stuck out to me was the fact that, like, they almost treated this game and the progression of the puck up the ice like a chess match. And I think that I've always said I really like that approach, because we've seen this team do that before. We've seen it work very well. It resulted in 2 Stanley Cups. And I think with the way, or with the mistakes that this team is prone to making, I really think that that's the way that this team needs to go in terms of style of play. And, it also helps them in terms of their defensive woes, because it doesn't leave them open to, making mistakes and not being able to get back on coverage and all this and that. But we'll talk about that towards the end of the show. Right now, we're talking about arguably the best player in the NHL right now, and that is Nikita Kucherov, picking up another goal tonight. The guy is just, I can't remember. I really can't remember a time, and even in 19, when he was just lighting it up. And just for reference, I mean, that was his MVP year. I can't remember a time in which he has played this well, where he has looked And I'm not only talking about results, I'm also talking about like his confidence, his swagger. Um, just it just seems like the talent and the way he is just going out there with reckless abandon on the offensive side of things. I haven't and like I said, 19 is by far stats wise his best career year. He won the Hart, the Pearson, and the Ross that year. I look at his stats right now, and then I also do the eye test, and I have to say he's at 15 goals right now. He's at first player in the league to hit the 40 point mark as well. Maybe I'm getting a little overzealous right now, but I think he could get to 50 goals. And it's because he is just going out there and I think it has to do with a lot with last year as well. I think he's going out there with this I don't give an F attitude. I'm just going to go out there. I'm going to shoot. I'm going to get as much points and goals as I can. And sometimes that could backfire. Sometimes that could eventually blow up in your face and not help your team. But with a guy like this, who he has the tools to do what he needs to do to be successful, to make his teammates successful, and he's not going out there with that selfish attitude. We all know that Kucherov is more of a team player. He prefers to go out there and set up his teammates for scoring chances, which is one of his best qualities and probably also one of his worst, because it's frustrating with the guy who has this high level of scoring ability not shooting enough. And that was prior to coming in this year. But right now, coming into this game, he had 117 shots on goal. And just to put that into context, he had 271 last year. So safe to say that he is on track to potentially breaking, or not breaking, I wouldn't say that, but getting past that. His career high is 279 for a season, which obviously not far off from last year. But I think that he could potentially get to 280, 285, 300. I don't know. I think that might be a little excessive. But it really sticks out to me because, I mean, it really shows that, and they were talking about it during the game today, Brian Engblom and Dave Randorf. They were really talking about it because, I mean, it's something that we've all kind of been discussing over the last couple of years. I mean, he had 6 shots on goal tonight. Okay. And he just doesn't care. And I that might not out of context sound like a bad thing, but when you look at it and look at the results and on nights mostly, and there's also, you got to throw a little caveat into that, is he needs to do this throughout the course of the game. He can't just wake up in the third period and take 4 or 5 shots after taking only 1. But it was really a focal point of the Lightning offense tonight, because he just he goes out there and just the way he's able to skate around and his ability and his skill, all that together. I mean, it's just, he just makes it look so easy. And when he goes out there and he has that high volume of shots on a nightly basis, it really makes a world of difference for this offense. And you know, we just got done talking about Andrei Vasilevskiy relieving some of the pressure from this Lightning team. Well, I think that if you go one level down on, I guess, the pyramid of just who helps the Lightning just start up and get the success train going, I mean, if he's not at the same level as Vazzy, Nikita Kucherov is right there on the second level. And the thing is, this is not going to be a nightly thing. I can't imagine that he's going to go out and take 5, 6 shots a night. I mean, I would love for that to happen, but the chances of that happening, especially as the Lightning continue to play good teams and any level of teams are going to have to focus on him, because at the end of the day, you know, you want to see what the depth players on this Lightning team could do, as you know, as opposed to, you don't want to try and go out there with the mindset that you want 86 to beat you. But the thing that really stuck out to me, other than the offense, other than the output of just goal scoring and points getting, and is his ability to not sacrifice any other aspects of his game. And just to kind of just take a step back real quick, just so you're all aware, here's his last 5 games coming into tonight. The game against Carolina, in which they won 8-2, he had 2 goals and 6 points. He had a point against Colorado, a point against Arizona, 2 against Pittsburgh, and 1 the other night against Dallas. The guy is scoring on a nightly basis. The guy, like I said, first player in the NHL to get to 40 at this rate, barring some injury, which I don't think. I mean, the guy looks like he's in the best shape of his career. He looks like he's playing the most free that I've seen him since 19, the most relaxed since I've seen him since 19. I think he's taken the aggression level a little higher up. I mean, this is the best hockey I think I've seen Kucherov play throughout his entire career. And the fact that he's doing it on all sides of the ice, he's playing. I mean, he made a couple of defensive plays, keeping the puck away from the Stars along the boards tonight. And he was doing it on his forehand and his backhand, which tells you that he's and the one thing is that it looks almost effortless at times. And it really shows you where his mind's at. And I'm very curious if this was like a conscious decision by him to just go out there and shoot more this year, or if this is something that may be a conversation he had with Cooper, or a teammate told him, hey man, you got to shoot more. But whatever it is, keep doing it. And I think that, I'm not going to jump on the Lightning getting back to the Eastern Conference Finals or even making the playoffs right now. I'm just focused on W's. The Lightning have a little bit ways to go before we could have that conversation, but you had your 2 top guys really roll on all cylinders and look like not only a Hart Trophy guy, but also look like a Vezina Trophy guy tonight. And if those 2 guys continue to get to put up this kind of performances on a nightly basis, I have no doubt in my mind that the Lightning could potentially not only get back in the conversation for the playoffs, but also get back in the conversation for possibly a cup contender. So we'll keep our eyes on that. I mean, that's wishful thinking. Phenomenal night from Cooch, phenomenal night from Vazzy, and looking forward to more nights like this, hopefully in the future. So we'll wrap things up with talking about the Lightning bouncing back in a big way tonight, regardless of what you might think of the score. But nonetheless, it was a big win. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. But first, I want to talk about our last sponsor of today's show, and that is our friends over at Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Don't spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills when you could do it all with Indeed. Find top talent fast with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools like Indeed Instant Match assessments and virtual interviews. Hate waiting. Indeed's U.S. data shows over 80% of Indeed employers find quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job. So with Instant Match, as soon as you sponsor a post, you can get a short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description, and you can invite them to apply right away. So go ahead. Indeed knows when you're growing on your own business, you have to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that match your must-have job requirements. Indeed knows hiring needs the cost effective when you're running your own business. So visit Indeed.com/lockedon to get start hiring now. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon, Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. Need to hire? You need Indeed. So wrapping things up on today's show, I just want to thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. And if you haven't already done so, please go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. Give us a follow wherever podcasts are distributed in audio form. We're available on YouTube, and we're also available on social media at LO_lightning on Twitter/X, as well as locked_on_lightning on Instagram. So big win tonight, 4-0. Like I said, big performances from your top guys. We even got goals from Tony C, and we got a goal from Luke Glendening, in which I'm sure Stars fans are not happy with the way that goal was scored. But nonetheless, a win is a win. And given the disaster that was Saturday in Dallas, to come back, not only win, and to win in the way that they did. And I always talk about that as a big thing, whether it be at right after a loss or right after, just continuing to play well and continuing to string wins together. I think that this and the Boston game, the Boston win in which they won in overtime, I thought was two of the best games we've seen from this team all year, because you kind of got to see two sides to it, two sides to the winning formula. Because obviously with the Boston win, that team, still trying to figure it out. You kind of saw what the formula was there, and the recipe for this team to be successful, especially in big time wins, big time games against big performers such as Boston. And then you go into a game like this where really you didn't necessarily have to make a statement, but you had to go out there and win and play well. Because I think that if the Lightning won this game, but they played shaky, I think there still would have been a lot of people, including yours truly, kind of looking at the team and being like, I'm not satisfied with this win. And I think we all would have been perfectly right with that statement. But you had Vasilevskiy getting a shutout, and at the same time looking like a Vezina Trophy candidate. And then you have your top player, Nikita Kucherov, just continuing to kind of bolster his case for the Hart Trophy, which I think this year he has a better chance of winning the Hart, because you look at Connor McDavid, who we all know is going to get points. We all know he's going to score goals. But at the same time, I think that the thing that really works in Kucher's favor is those lack of games for McDavid. And you saw how the rest of the team responded, and the rest of the team played from the opening puck drop. I stated before, I kind of alluded to it, was the thing that really stuck out to me from this team as a whole tonight was how they were very meticulous with advancing the puck. And what I really liked from them, which I want to see more from them as they continue to still figure it out, even though that's not really something you want from your team going into the middle of December, is they weren't taking chances when they didn't need to. I thought that their play in the neutral zone was very conservative for the most part. I thought what they very much did a very good job of down the stretch in the late in the second and the third period was that they just, if they didn't feel like they were able to skate around the neutral zone with the puck, and they felt like there was even sort of kind of a chance of them turning over the puck, they were just going to dump it and put fresh legs on the ice. And I thought that was very smart. And I thought that it kind of resembled the Lightning. It almost kind of reminded me of seeing chess in live action. If you ever played chess before, it's a slow progression of moves. And I kind of felt like that's how the Lightning were tonight. And I thought that that's not something that's necessarily a bad thing, especially when you play against good teams. I mean, Dallas is one of the better teams in the Western Conference. They're a very good team, as we all know. They always like to play physical. They have their fair share of skilled players and goal scorers. But at the end of the day, what really sticks out with this team is they like to play physical, and it kind of turns into a game of chess or checkers or whatever analogy pertaining to a game you want to use. But the Lightning did a very good job of just keeping the puck in Dallas's zone. And kind of would have figured that the shot total would have been a little higher than what it was, but I don't have a problem with it. I think that if the Lightning are winning 3-1 games or 4-2 games or, games that are kind of like in that roundhouse of scoring, and they have 25, 28, under 30 shots, I think that that's something you could live with. I think that those wins put a little bit more confidence under your belt than the 5-0, 35 shot, 40 shot wins, because they're easy replicable. I they're easily replicable. I know that's a hard word coming out of my mouth, but I think that those games you could carry over. I think you're going to see a lot more of games like tonight. I mean, you're not going to see, not everyone's going to be a shutout, but at the same time, I think that though tonight are the kind of games where the Lightning could, if they're smart, they could look back on and say, "Look what we did in this game. Let's it worked for us then. I know it's a different opponent, but at the same time, if we're able to bring this, that, and the other thing, whether it be the neutral zone play, whether it be Kucherov individually doing what he was doing well, or even like Vasilevskiy playing the way he did. If those guys individually or as a team could say to themselves, look, we did the A, B, and C against Dallas. And if we could bring 70, I would say 65 to 70% of what they did, and I'm not talking about this goal scoring necessarily, but the little things that led to that, I think you win 60% of your games for the rest of the season. I know that might be a little bit of a crazy prediction, but I think that's realistic. I think that's more realistic than looking at what they did against Carolina, the E2 win, and saying, "Oh, let's bring that into our games." You're not going to do that. That was just a night in which Carolina, in my opinion, didn't show up. So let me know in the comments below what you think. Is this a win that could be easily replicated? Is this kind of a night where there's still a lot to work on? Let me know in the comments below what you think, and we'll be back tomorrow to talk more about this win, some of the players, some of the performances that we have seen from this team over the last couple of weeks, and we look at the schedule coming up in the next couple of weeks to end 2023. So in the meantime, go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. Give us a follow wherever podcasts are distributed. Like I said, we'll be back. So in the meantime, that's been it for this episode of Locked On Lightning, part of Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Adam Danker. I'll talk to you in the next one.